Welcome to English Vertex Podcast.
Improve your vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation with our engaging lessons.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English Vertex Podcast. I'm so happy you're here with us today.
Hey there. It's great to be back. Actually, I had to make a complaint at a restaurant last week, and I realized halfway through that I had no idea how to sound polite about it.
Oh no, what happened?
My order came out completely wrong, and I just kind of blurted out, "This is wrong," which honestly sounded way more aggressive than I meant it to be.
That happens so easily. And that's exactly why today's episode is going to be so useful.
Today, we're learning English through everyday complaints, how to express frustration or dissatisfaction politely, clearly, and without sounding rude.
By the end of this episode, you'll know exactly how to complain about everyday problems at restaurants, stores, or even with friends, while still sounding calm, respectful, and confident.
While you're listening, think of a time you needed to complain about something, but weren't sure how to say it politely. Comment below and share it with us.
And if you're new here, welcome to English Vertex Podcast. Please like this episode and subscribe so you never miss a lesson like this one.
All right, let's stop sounding accidentally rude and start complaining the polite, natural way. Let's dive in.
Let's start with the foundation, the basic structure that makes any complaint sound polite instead of harsh. Here's the simple formula. Soft opener, plus the specific problem, plus what you'd like instead. For example, "I'm sorry to bother you, but this coffee is actually cold. Could I get a fresh one?" Let me give you some real examples. "Excuse me, I think there might be a mistake with my order. I'm sorry to say this, but the room isn't quite as clean as I expected. I hate to complain, but this isn't what I ordered. I understand mistakes happen, but this is actually the second time this occurred. I don't mean to make a big deal, but I did specifically ask for no onions." Here's a personal example. When my flight got delayed with barely any information, I said, "I understand things happen, but could you please give us an update on the situation?" That soft opener kept things calm, even though I was honestly frustrated. That's such a smart approach. Quick question for you, Emily. Why do you think starting with something soft, like "I'm sorry to bother you," actually helps rather than weakens your complaint? Because it shows respect first, which makes the listener less defensive and honestly more willing to actually help you solve the problem.
Exactly right. Now, for our listeners, can you think of a soft opener you could use the next time you need to complain about something small?
I love that reflection question. It really gets you prepared for real situations.
Now let's talk about negative forms and variations. Instead of saying, "This is wrong," which can sound blunt, try, "I don't think this is quite right," which sounds noticeably softer and more polite.
That small shift from a direct statement to a softer opinion phrase completely changes how the complaint lands with the listener. Can you all try this right now? Take a direct complaint you might normally make and soften it using one of today's structures, then share it in the comments. So to summarize this section, a polite complaint usually starts with a soft opener, clearly states the specific problem, and then suggests what you'd like to happen next. Great summary! That simple three-part structure works in almost every complaint situation you'll ever face. Now let's build on that with a very common, related situation, complaining about products and services, like at restaurants, hotels, or stores.
This is such a practical, everyday scenario because almost everyone eventually needs to return a product or address a service issue at some point.
Let's look at a real-life situation. Imagine your food arrives cold at a restaurant. Instead of just pushing your plate away silently, you could say, "Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you, but my food has actually gone cold. Could you warm it up for me, please?" Let's demonstrate this with a quick dialogue. Emily, imagine you're returning a faulty product at a store. "Hi, I'm sorry to bother you, but this blender stopped working after just 2 days. I was hoping to get a refund or exchange.
Perfect example. Clear, calm, and completely reasonable. Now, let's compare formal and informal usage. Casually, with a friend running a small business, you might say, "Hey, this actually broke pretty quickly. Any chance I could swap it?" More formally, in a big store, you'd stick with something like, "I'd like to request a refund for this item."
Let's do a quick practice activity. I'll describe a situation and you respond with a polite complaint. Your hotel room hasn't been cleaned as requested.
Excuse me, I specifically requested housekeeping this morning, but the room hasn't been cleaned yet. Could someone come by soon?
Perfect complaint. Calm but clear about the specific issue. Here are 3 tips for these situations. First, always state the specific problem clearly. Avoid vague complaints like, "This is bad." Second, suggest a clear solution, like a refund, replacement, or fix. Third, keep your tone calm and factual, not emotional or accusing.
Those tips are so important, especially staying factual. Emotional complaints often get less helpful responses than calm, clear ones. I'd love for you to write your own product or service complaint example in the comments below using these 3 tips.
To review this section, remember, state the specific problem clearly, suggest a solution, and keep your tone calm, whether you're at a restaurant, hotel, or store.
Now let's move into a third area, complaining to friends or family about smaller, everyday frustrations, plus what to do when a first complaint doesn't get resolved. This is such a practical, everyday scenario, since complaints with people we know well often need a slightly different, gentler tone than complaints with strangers or businesses. Let's look at a real-life example. Instead of bluntly saying, "You're always late," which can sound harsh, you could say, "Hey, I've noticed you've been running late a few times lately. Is everything okay?"
That's such a thoughtful example, showing genuine concern rather than just frustration. A tip for politeness and naturalness here, using phrases like "I've noticed" or "I feel like" softens personal complaints significantly compared to blunt accusations.
Tone and delivery guidance matters here too. With friends, your voice should sound warm and genuinely curious, not sharp or annoyed, even if you're feeling a little frustrated inside.
Let's look at a real-life practice situation. Imagine your roommate keeps leaving dishes in the sink.
"Hey, would you mind washing your dishes a bit sooner? It's been piling up lately and it's kind of stressing me out."
That's such a calm, clear way to address it without starting an argument.
Now, let's talk about escalation. When your first polite complaint doesn't actually solve the problem. You might say, "I understand, but this is actually the second time I've mentioned this. Could we find a solution today?"
Let's do an interactive mini practice. I'll give a scenario, and Emily will respond with an escalated but still polite complaint. Go ahead. You already complained once about a noisy neighbor, and the noise continues. I really appreciate you looking into this before, but unfortunately, the noise is still happening most nights. Could we talk about a more permanent solution? Perfect escalation. Firm, but still completely respectful. I really encourage everyone listening to try saying that sentence out loud right now, imagining your own frustrating situation.
Speaking it out loud really helps you feel more prepared and confident the next time you actually need to escalate a real complaint calmly.
So, structurally, remember, soften personal complaints with phrases like "I've noticed" or "I feel like." And when escalating, acknowledge previous efforts before clearly restating the ongoing problem.
Great structural review. These techniques help you stay assertive without ever sounding aggressive or unreasonable. Okay, time to be honest with everyone. We've both made mistakes with complaints too, even after years of practicing this exact skill.
Oh, definitely. Early on, I once said, "This is terrible," about a meal at a nice restaurant, and the whole table went silent because it honestly sounded way harsher than I intended.
That's such a relatable moment. Let's go through a few more. Mistake number 1, using overly direct or harsh language, like this is wrong or this is terrible, instead of softer alternatives like I don't think this is quite right.
Mistake number 2, complaining without stating a clear solution, like just saying this isn't good without explaining what you'd actually like to happen instead.
Why does this happen? Often it's because we're focused on expressing frustration itself and forget that the listener actually needs clear direction to help resolve the issue.
Mistake number 3. Translating complaint phrases too literally from your own language, which can sometimes sound overly blunt or even rude in English, even though the same words feel completely normal in your native language.
And mistake number 4, raising your tone or sounding emotional while complaining, which can unintentionally make the other person defensive rather than cooperative and helpful.
Let's do a quick correction game. I'll say something too direct, and Emily will soften it.
Ready when you are.
This food is bad.
Better version. I'm sorry, but I don't think this dish tastes quite right. Could I get something else?
You always ignore my messages.
Better version. I've noticed you haven't replied to a few of my messages lately. Is everything okay?
Perfect softened versions. Still clear, but so much more approachable.
Please remember, complaining politely is a skill, and it's completely normal to sound a bit too direct or blunt while you're still learning it.
Exactly. And honestly, even native speakers sometimes struggle to complain without sounding harsh. So don't be too hard on yourself.
Now let's move into our favorite part. Choose the more polite complaint. I'll give you 2 options, and you decide which one sounds better.
Situation 1. A. This is wrong. B. I think there might be a mistake with my order.
B. Much softer and more polite.
Situation 2. A. This room is dirty. B. I'm sorry to mention this, but the room isn't quite as clean as I expected.
B. Clearly softened while still stating the actual problem.
Situation 3. A. You always leave your dishes everywhere. B. I've noticed the dishes have been piling up lately. Could we sort out a system?
B. Much calmer and more constructive.
Situation 4.
A. This is the second time. Fix it now. B. This is actually the second time. Could we find a solution today?
B.
Firm, but still respectful. And our final one. Situation 5. A. This coffee is cold and terrible. B. I'm sorry, but this coffee seems to have gone cold. Could I get a fresh one?
B. Clear, polite, and solution-focused.
Excellent choices across the board. Now, here's your challenge. Think of a real complaint you might need to make soon and write a polite version using today's soft opener, specific problem, and solution structure.
Try saying it out loud right now, too, wherever you're listening from, really focusing on keeping your tone calm and warm.
You can also practice adjusting formality. Try a version for a close friend, then a more formal version for a stranger or business.
Remember, real conversation always matters more than perfect grammar. A calm, clear complaint will always be more effective than a perfectly grammatical but harsh one. Wow, I feel so much more prepared to handle complaints calmly after breaking all of this down today. Same here. Let's quickly recap the 3 main areas we covered today. First, the basic structure of polite complaints: soft opener, specific problem, and a suggested solution. Second, complaining about products and services, staying clear, calm, and factual. Third, complaining to friends and handling escalation, softening personal complaints and staying respectful even when a problem continues. If you can start applying even one of these techniques this week, your complaints are going to sound so much more confident, calm, and effective.
And remember, Complaining politely isn't about avoiding your true feelings. It's about expressing them in a way that actually gets results.
Here's a question for you before we go. What's one complaint you've been putting off that you might finally address using today's techniques? Tell us in the comments.
And if this episode helped you today, please like it, share it with a friend who's learning English, and subscribe to English Vertex Podcast so you never miss an episode.
We put so much thought into making these lessons practical for real everyday situations, and your support truly means so much to us.
Keep practicing, keep staying calm and clear, and remember that polite doesn't mean weak. It just means effective.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today.
See you next time.